What's the proper way to celebrate a victory? Here we'll see that in God's reckoning, the proper way is renewed commitment to the work of God and the covenant of God. This is Eric Slay with the UWM Penn Guy, and this is the Bible Commentary. And as always, if you like what you're seeing, I would ask that you hit like and subscribe in order to help the channel grow. And now, without further ado, let's get into the Word. So today we're going to conclude the study of Joshua chapter 8 by looking at verses 30 through 35. This section is something of a relief, in a sense, from the very hard subject matter in the middle of this chapter. It is a kind of epilogue to that subject matter. And I think here the chapter division, again, is appropriate. It's done well, because this really does belong in chapter 8. Chapter 9 we'll see, is a whole new subject. And so let's begin by reading verses 30 through 32. And at that time, Joshua built an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, on Mount Ebal, just as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the people of Israel, as it is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones upon which no man has wielded an iron tool, and they offered on it burnt offerings to the Lord and sacrificed peace offerings. And there, in the presence of the people of Israel, he wrote on the stones a copy of the law of Moses, which he had written. So we see here a continuous theme of the scriptures, and we've already seen it in the Old Testament. This isn't the first time that God has commanded Joshua, or Joshua has, according to the command of the Lord in Moses, gone back to Moses. Moses, the Pentateuch. Moses, the title for the Pentateuch, especially in the New Testament era. That's what the Pharisees and the tradition called it. And so that's the foundation. Brief side note, it's interesting that the Pharisees had the right idea. They said, we are disciples of Moses, but their superficiality and Paul said, I had zeal beyond my contemporaries for the traditions of my fathers, but then he considered that later to be all feces, a pile of feces, worthless, disgusting, hollow, compared to the excellence of knowing Christ. Here in Joshua, we see the proper way, where the people have experienced a victory, a major victory. And by interesting contrast to chapter 7, victory, overconfidence, pride goes before a fall, and fall. Beginning of chapter 8, under God, they rise again. Now here, it seems they've learned their lesson. We'll see in chapter 9, they're going to face a whole new temptation and test that they basically failed. But for now, it appears they've definitely learned the lesson against overconfidence. What is the way to avoid pride, to avoid overconfidence, to avoid the idea of pride goes before a fall? It is to follow up a victory with renewed worship of God, dedication to God, prayer, maybe going to a church service, whatever it might be. Anything where you are showing devotion to the Lord, where you are, in essence, making an offering of your victory to the Lord. Which is not to say that you did not win the victory. Everything about chapter 8 has emphasized that the victory was won by Joshua and the armies, but it was also won by God. I'm not going to go back through this synergistic idea again. I covered it at the beginning of the Joshua 8 series. But for now, we can see that even with that, this is the proper rounding in the sanctification of the believer.